Ever wondered how tipping works when you're paying by card at a restaurant? It's a good question and one that's becoming increasingly relevant in our cashless society. Many of us have reservations or difficulties when it comes to this new way of showing appreciation to our servers. Let's dive right in. Picture this: you're at your favorite eatery, you've just enjoyed a delicious meal, and you're ready to pay. You pull out your card, and suddenly, you're faced with that little tipping prompt on the payment terminal. What do? How does this affect your server, and where does the tip actually go? In the past, tipping was a straightforward process. You'd simply leave a few extra coins or bills on the table, and you'd know exactly who it was going to. But with card payments, it's a different story. Many modern cash register systems can handle different VAT rates, ensuring that tips aren't subject to VAT. But what else happens behind the scenes? Studies have shown that people tend to be more generous with tips when paying with cards. But are these tips distributed fairly among the staff? Are they taxed differently? And what about those tips that go directly to the business owner? So, that's the big question. How does tipping work when you're swiping instead of handing over cash? Today, we demystify the process of tipping when paying by card. Now imagine you've just enjoyed a splendid meal, and it's time to settle the bill. You pull out your card, but then comes the question, how do I tip? It's a fair question, and it's one that we're going to answer right now. The total bill is paid by card, that's the easy part. You hand over your card, the cashier swipes or inserts it into the machine, you enter your PIN or sign, and voila, the meal is paid for. But what about the tip? Well, that's where things get a bit more interesting. Many cash register systems handle different VAT rates. This ensures that the tips you give are not subject to VAT. So, the tip you leave goes directly to the person you're tipping, not the taxman. That's good news, right? But here's the catch. These tips are tax-free only as long as they're voluntary and not included in the bill. If a service charge is automatically added to your bill, that's not a tip. It's a charge that's subject to tax. Now let's talk about pooled tips. These are tips that are collected and then distributed among the staff. It sounds like a fair system, doesn't it? Everyone gets a share of the day's tips. However, these pooled tips are not officially tax-free. That means they could be subject to tax depending on the local laws and regulations. And what about tips given directly to the business owner? Well, those must be taxed. So, if you're tipping the owner of the restaurant, keep in mind that your tip will be subject to tax. In a nutshell, the process of card tipping involves paying the bill, deciding on a tip, and knowing that your tip may or may not be taxed, depending on a variety of factors. It's a fascinating system, and it's one that's constantly evolving as more and more people switch from cash to cards. So, the process of card tipping isn't as complicated as you might have thought, right? If you're finding this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Now let's dive into the psychology behind card tipping. Humans are creatures of habit, and the habit of tipping is no exception. But when we switch from cash to card, something interesting happens. The psychological barrier of physically parting with our hard-earned cash is removed, and suddenly, tipping becomes a lot easier. This is known as the pain of paying. When we pay with cards, this pain is lessened, and we're more likely to tip, and even tip generously. This is not just about the ease of swiping or tapping a card, it's about the abstract nature of digital money. When we don't see the physical cash, it's easier to spend and tip more. This phenomenon is not only interesting but also has a significant impact on the service industry. But like everything else, card tipping comes with its share of challenges. Now let's continue with our discussion. But does the method of payment affect the generosity of the tipper? Let's delve into this intriguing question. Research has revealed a fascinating trend. When we switch from cash to card, our tipping tendencies tend to take an upward swing. Yes, indeed, it seems that the ease of a simple swipe or tap can make us more liberal with our gratuities. Now, let's consider the implications of this trend. For the patrons, it's all about convenience and the psychological effect of not seeing the physical cash leave their wallets. But what does it mean for the hard-working service staff? Well, it could be a cause for celebration. A rise in card tipping might just mean an uptick in their take-home pay, a reward for their dedication and service. On the flip side, let's not forget that larger tips can sometimes lead to higher expectations. It's a delicate balance, but one that could potentially reshape the service industry as we know it. So it seems that swiping might be making us more generous tippers. But what happens when restaurant owners get their hands on those tips? Well, let's dive into the murky waters of the card tipping controversy. Despite it being illegal, There have been instances where restaurant owners withhold tips meant for the service staff. And this unsavory practice has many implications both for the hard-working staff and for you, the generous tipper. Firstly, it creates an unfair environment for the service staff. These are the folks who work tirelessly to ensure you have a pleasant dining experience, and they deserve every penny of their hard-earned tip. When restaurant owners interfere with this, it's not just unethical, it's downright unjust. For you, the customer, it raises questions about the transparency of your transactions. You might think that your tip is going directly to the waiter who served your table, but in reality, it could be going into the restaurant owner's pocket. This lack of clarity can create mistrust and ultimately affect your overall dining experience. So, what's the bottom line? While card tipping has its conveniences and advantages, we must also confront its darker side. It's a reminder that we need to be vigilant and informed to ensure that generosity is not exploited. And that's the darker side of card tipping that we need to be aware of. Having navigated through the curiosity, process, psychology, impact, and the controversy surrounding card tipping, we hope you found this video informative. And now, we come to the most crucial part of our journey, where we, as customers, can make a difference. We're calling this the call to action, ensuring fair tipping practices. It's important to remember that despite the controversies, tipping is a practice that rewards hard work and encourages good service. So, how can we ensure our tips reach the right hands? Firstly, it starts with awareness. Being informed is the first step to ensuring fair practices. Ask the management how tips are distributed. If you're not comfortable with the answer, you can always tip in cash directly to the service staff. This may not be as convenient as card tipping, but it guarantees your gratitude reaches the people who earned it. Secondly, support establishments that treat their employees fairly. If you find out about a restaurant withholding tips, consider dining elsewhere and spreading the word about their practices. Lastly, let's use our voices to call for transparency in tipping. Share this video with your friends and family to raise awareness about this issue. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more such content. Your engagement helps us reach more people and create an impact. Together, we can ensure fair tipping practices and continue to reward those who make our dining experiences memorable. Thank you for watching, and remember, your tip matters.